Hey YouTube, this is E95070. What I'm going to be doing is a tabletop review of the Beretta 92FS. I know there's a bunch of them online too, There's plenty of stuff in the forums online as well. But I watched a couple of them recently and I decided that, well, I've never really made a video before, so I might as well do a video on something that I like a lot, and that's the Beretta 92FS. So we might as well get started. Alright, to carry on with this, first I want to get into complaints about the Beretta, and one of them is the size. Now, I hear what you're saying when you complain about size. It is way bigger than it needs to be. Beretta in 9mm, any gun in 9mm does not need to be this large. But that being said, there's no recoil. Now I know a lot of other guns have very, very minimal recoil, and a 9mm itself in general has not much recoil. But the size of the Beretta itself seems to make it almost like it literally has no recoil. You just hear the gun fire and that's it. And to note on that, in addition, like when I take girls out to shoot handguns, they usually like the Beretta. They want to stick with the Beretta for the day. They can figure out the trigger when it's on single action. They like it a lot. I know that our main focus isn't girls shooting out in the backyard like they do with me, but that's just an additional note. But that size is not necessary. And also noting on the size, that's one real serious complaint that I hear in regards to that, is that you cannot conceal this gun. This gun is not for concealed carry. Horse shit is what I have to say about that. It seems like every video I watch about the Beretta 92FS, or M9 for that matter, since they're the same gun, is that it's not for concealed carry. If you're trying to conceal your gun, you should choose a different gun. If you want absolute ease of concealment, okay. But you can conceal this. I've been concealing this for 2 years, okay, since it's become my primary carry gun. It absolutely can be concealed, okay? Maybe a lot of these people are from places of extremely hot weather. If you're from Arizona, and you're outside all day, this and that, maybe you don't want to wear a button-up. Okay, I'm from Minnesota. I'm from northern Minnesota. It does get hot here, okay? When it's 92 here, it's really, 108 because of the level of humidity that you feel here. If you're going to be hot, which you will be in Arizona, because I've been there too, wearing a cover garment that's real light, a thin little button-up, you're not going to notice it. You really won't. You're going to be hot no matter what, and that little thin layer isn't going to make a notable difference. It's going to make you happy for the rest of the day. And with a button-up or something like that, you can conceal this gun just fine. I mean, the part that's going to stick out is the grip. And every single gun has a grip. And that's what's going to happen is, your cover garment will come up over it. I don't know how you'd be trying to conceal this that would make it stick out more than anything else, okay? Unless you like to have it, in your pocket, which isn't really a good place for a gun that's meant for self-defense. Okay, it's not where you want the gun, okay? Unless, you've got one of those little wallet guns that, like, okay, I'll give you my wallet, and you pull out the gun and, give them a different sort of payment. Let's see, what else? Okay, double action, single action. Well, what are we seeing most these days? We're seeing the striker fired, right? Striker fired guns are just fine. Something that, you know, you can do with a double action, single action, you know, with the exposed hammer is, you know, you can pull the trigger again if you have, you know, a light primer strike or something like that. Is that likely? It's not really that likely, you know. Maybe it's so unlikely with our modern striker fire guns that it's not even worth talking about, you know. You know, with, of course, a striker fire double action pistol, you know, it's consistent. The trigger pulls the same on every shot. I know back when I started with this gun, shooting IDPA was a pain in the ass because I'd always screw up on the double action shot. Well, training took care of that, you know, after, you know, a couple months of practicing with just the double action every time I went to the range, hitting the decocker every shot, then that issue disappeared. Now, when we're talking about that double action pull on the first shot, we might as well talk about that weight. Now, everybody knows that double action pull is heavier. Runs around 12 pounds stock on the Beretta. Gets pretty smooth after, you know, 500-600 rounds, and seems to just keep getting smoother. Okay, now something you can do if you really like your Beretta in the first place is replace that hammer spring with a lighter one. Do you have to? Well, obviously not. Did I? Yeah, it was one of the first things I did. I thought, you know, I can make it lighter, I can make it better, and I'll shoot better with it, you know, with a lighter pull on that double action, you know, double action shot. I remember right away, you know, mentioning that on a few forums and having guys, oh, you can't do that, the gun's not going to be reliable anymore. You know, it's just not going to work. You know, and, you know, all that crap. You know, do you really want to bet your safety on something like that? It's not designed for that. Okay, I put 3,500 rounds through this since then, and not a single light primer strike. And those primer strikes, when you look at them, you know, they're still really, really deep. So not concerning to me, shouldn't be concerning to anyone else. It just shouldn't be. You know, that extra weight on that hammer spring, that's just like backup, you know. It's like, oh, there's plenty, let's put a little more just to make sure. Okay, you get that 18-pounder in there, it is nice once that thing is worn in. You know, the double action's nicer, the single action is nicer. You know, it's just, it was just like it got upgraded, you know. Another thing that I like about the Beretta a lot, and you know, I noticed this initially, it points really, really, really well. Every gun points well after you train with it, but you know, as a young man in high school, you know, back in, you know, 02, 03, you know, Glocks were that big thing, and all the other new synthetic guns. I know the Glock wasn't new in 02, 03, but, you know, just saying, you know, when they were becoming standard, you know, the Beretta at that point to me was just some old school shit gun. You know, I always talk crap about it, you know. You would never want a Beretta. Why would you shoot a Beretta? Why would you buy a Beretta? They're crap. And I never bothered to shoot one that anyone had. But my best friend Aaron, whom I met while working at Hunter's Outlet in Thief River Falls and selling guns, he had one. And he'd hardly shot it. It was stock, you know, and everything. and I decided that I should probably shoot it just because it was available. And that's what I noticed immediately, was how well this gun pointed, and bing, 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 bing on the silhouettes, you know, like nothing. I, of course, noted the heaviness of the double action trigger, but when I was working there, I also wasn't old enough to get a permit to carry. So as far as I was concerned, it was all about that single action pull, because we were just out in the back shooting, you know, steel targets. Or, you know, we were on the gun range shooting steel targets, or we were going to do IDPA. So I noted that, and I decided that I should have one, because I'd been working with the 1911 for forever. It was one of the only guns I ever worked with other than the H&K USP. And I've got little girly hands, so the USP just really wasn't for me, because it was like holding a brick. And, you know, after shooting some ammo through the Beretta, I just thought, God, why, you know, my opinion on the gun initially was unfounded. Are there more modern, you know, guns that might be more flexible? Well, obviously. You know, this is the 92 FS, so there's no rail. Not that I'd necessarily ever put a light on my gun. Of course, you could get the 92A1 or the M9A1, and that comes stock with the rail and some more aggressive checkering on the grips. But I like it. The Beretta works. It's not broken. You don't have to fix it. You can just make it a little better. 15 plus 1. Now Mekgar makes those magazines that are plus 2 with the hollow base plate. I'm going to get a couple of those, or you can just go ahead and get the 90-2 mags that fit in the 92 FS or M9 and run with those. You know, whatever costs a little bit less. You know, CDNN has Mekgar mags, the plus 2 flush fitting ones, for $27. You know, at Cabela's, a 15-round Beretta mag is $40. So it makes more sense for me to get the plus 2s that might actually even be better and more reliable than the actual Beretta manufacturer's mags than it is to, you know, to actually go ahead and buy the Beretta mags. Just because of the cost difference. Like I'll say again, reliability on this thing is really good. You know, you run into that 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever of every kind of gun that there's a guy on a forum where his just doesn't work. His just sucks. The only thing that worked for him was getting rid of it. Well, that happens with every gun. You know, take forum opinions with a grain of salt. Take this with a grain of salt, because this is my experience. You know, this doesn't mean that Glocks suck and you should never buy a Glock because it simply won't work for you. That's not true, because it works for a lot of people. I'm not even going to estimate. Overall satisfaction, I'm going to say 90% overall satisfied with the Beretta. 90% because I had to mod it a little bit for my particular tastes and for a bit of a lack of flexibility. So that is my Beretta 92 FS review. Good gun, reliable gun, easy to shoot gun. So before you listen to all these guys that just talk shit about it, go shoot one. Because I talked a lot of shit about them until I shot them. So thank you guys a lot. I don't care if you review. I don't care if you subscribe to my page. Just thought I'd add my 2 cents.